I saved hundreds of thousands of lives by doing that, and hundreds of and millions of lives throughout the world when you look at what we did therapeutically and with the vaccine. Again, no mandates, but the vaccine has saved millions, tens of millions of people worldwide, and we should all be very proud of that. We did something, and we, not me, we did something in 9 months.
You did it. You negotiated with.
I did.
With the pharmaceutical.
I did. On behalf of everybody, not just
on behalf. But take us inside that negotiation.
Okay.
You promised them billions of dollars if they came up with the vax.
Right.
Did that
and ordered billions of dollars before we knew it worked.
Right.
And that was the key because it takes a year to make it. If we didn't do that, the people that have taken the vaccine, of which there are many, and millions, tens of millions all over, the world, we saved millions and millions. In 1917, we had the Spanish flu bill. They say up to 100 million people died. I don't know if you've ever heard this story. They say World War I ended because of the Spanish flu, because the soldiers on both sides were catching it, and they were dying. It was a different kind, but they were dying. And it ended probably as responsible or largely responsible for ending World War I. I think we would have had something similar had we not come up with this. And one thing I have to say, I got it done in 9 months instead of 5 years to 12 years, and it works. We should take credit for it. No mandates. The mandates are killing the economy, by the way. That's one of the things.
If you were president now, would you encourage everybody to get vaxxed?
If take credit for it. The answer is it can't be mandatory because some people have religious reasons, they have other reasons, they have psychological reasons. They don't want it, and you know what? That's okay. And remember this, they're not counting those people that had COVID or the China virus. And we should keep it that name because that's where it came from. It came from Wuhan. Remember when I said it came from Wuhan, the lab in Wuhan, and there was like a firestorm. How dare he say that? Now everybody agrees that it came from the lab in Wuhan. But let me go back to Fauci for a second.
Yeah.
Number one, you should be very proud of what we all did with the vaccine. Take credit for it. Don't be foolish. Take credit for it. And not everybody has to take it. And we have to give credit to people that have had this problem and got better because they are highly vaccinated in a sense. And they don't give any credit for that. If you've had it, you're very immune, you're very strong on not getting it again. And if you do get it again, it won't be bad. Same thing with the vaccine. You can get it sometimes, but if you do get it, you're not going to a hospital and you're not going to die. So I say this, you have to be proud of that. You have to be proud of it. With all of that being said, some people don't want to get it, and they shouldn't be forced to get it.
But Fauci survived your administration. You didn't dump him.
So you have to make decisions in life. Fauci was not a big factor in my administration because everything he wanted to do, I didn't do. If you think about it, he was also against masks. He said masks are bad. And now he's a radical masker. If you wear 12 of them, it's okay. Wear them in your ears and your eyes. Every part of your body. He's a radical masker. But I made my own decisions. I had a few people like that. Here's the downside to fire him. We run a country, and we have great people here. But we have people that don't necessarily agree with our views. There wasn't a reason to create a firestorm. Now, Fauci has become a much bigger factor. We don't realize that. But under the Biden administration, he's calling all the shots. With me, I was calling the shots. We got the ventilators, we got all the equipment, we got the suits and the goggles and everything. And we distributed it to states that had nothing, and the federal government had nothing. You know the expression, the cupboards were bare. But Fauci wasn't as big a factor. In fact, he wasn't a big factor really at all. Because think of it, Bill. He and Pelosi and all these people, they wanted to keep our country totally open to China and to Europe. I didn't do it. I didn't listen to Fauci or anybody else. I saw people were dying all over the place. So right now, Fauci is a much bigger factor. And I would say this, he doesn't have much credibility. He certainly, he used to tell me he's a great athlete. Then I saw him throw the baseball to Washington. He's not a great athlete, but that's the second worst throw I've ever seen. Who made the worst throw?
Obama!
Obama's throw is a little bit worse, by a few inches. Obama's throw went about 2 inches further left, which is hard to do. So it was the worst throw, but he told me he was a great basketball player.
So you didn't want the firestorm that would have enveloped you and your...
No, it's not that I didn't want it. We didn't need it.
Right.
He had certain, and I think that leaving him, and I didn't meet with him much. We had a very, very good group of people. We had meetings every week. We had some very talented people. So he wasn't that big a factor. Now he's a much bigger factor. But Bill, you understand this. We're running a country. Why should we create a firestorm for not that much?
And that segues neatly into my next thing. If you run again and you're elected, because 80% of the media hates you so much, but they'll step it up even further. Is there anything that a president or a federal government can do to stop the media dishonesty in this country?
Well, there's one thing that'll be great. Change the laws where if somebody writes a story about you and it's false, you can sue them for libel.
Right.
Right now, they can say anything they want about me or him, in all fairness. They can say about Bill O'Reilly that he is, and I won't use any expression because it'll go out, they'll say that I accused him. They'll say I accused him. They could say the worst thing possible, that his life was a disaster, a failure, he's immoral. They can write anything they want, and he'll go to a lawyer, and the lawyer will say, they'll throw you out of court. It's called the Sullivan case. And Justice Thomas, who's terrific, by the way, has already commented publicly that he thinks that should be looked at. I think the only way you can make these people honest, because they are crazy, the only way they're stone cold crazy. They write books about me that are so false. This guy, Jonathan Carl, I don't even hardly know this guy. He writes books like he's my intimate friend.
He's the ABC White House stars.
No, but and so many others, not just him. And his is a recent one of his, hopefully not doing well. They write recent. In the old days, I don't know if you remember this, Bill, but in the old days, I'd get a story written. But before the story was written, I'd get a call from the New York Times or somebody. Sir, we're the fact checker. We'd like to fact check. Is it true this? Is it true that? Do you ever remember that? You want to remember? I don't get any fact check. They write books now that say the most horrible things, and I can easily refute it, but they don't even call. Because the laws don't allow you to sue their ass off. And if you did allow that, you would end up, maybe artificially in a way, but you would end up with an honest press. They would have no choice but to be honest. And they should change Sullivan. They should change the laws so that if they write badly about people, you're allowed to sue. Even if you sued and if you lost, you pay the cost. That's another way of doing it, by the way. The loser pays. You would cut down 70% of the legal stuff.
Yeah, I want to point out that Nicholas Sandman, who's already won cases in CNN, settled on Friday with NBC. So he's a very wealthy young man.
How much?
I wouldn't say how much.
I'd love to find that out. Because I do hear numbers that are a little wild.
I will find
But
out.
I would love to find.
But that was the case where he was vilified by all the networks as provoking a Native American man in Washington, D.C. when he didn't do anything of the kind. So because Nicholas wasn't a famous person, he could sue and win. But President Trump and myself, we're famous, we get thrown out right away. They can do whatever they want. Now, I want to get to Afghanistan in a sense that two things that are interesting to me. You negotiated yourself with the Taliban leader, Abdullah. It was you and him, mano a mano, right? But you left out the sitting Afghan government. They didn't have a say in it. In hindsight, was that a good strategy?
Yeah, because you didn't have a government. Look, you had Ghani. I said from day one he was a thief. I told you that years ago. This guy had the greatest line of crap. Oh, it's the president. I went to see our soldiers, and I met with him. I was in Iraq. He came in, and he sounded like the nicest guy.
Hello.
He wasn't. And when he left, I was right. I always said that he would be interesting, not to build up 60 Minutes, but I watched him on 60 Minutes like 4 years ago. And they said, how long would your government last if the United States left? He said, it would almost end immediately. I said, then what the hell are we doing? We're not going to stay there forever. But I could see him, and he was a total crook. This guy took out so much cash. Did you hear the story? No, I don't know if it's true.
Nhưng mà tụi em chở cho.
He had to leave cash, millions and millions of dollars when he was leaving. He was fleeing. And I always said he would leave about a week before we left because he didn't want to be there. He wouldn't have lasted 24 hours. He left. He had to leave the cash on the runway, millions and millions of dollars, because it didn't fit into his helicopter or his plane. Okay, think of that.
So he was a crook.
I thought, yeah, and I didn't think he had a government. We paid those soldiers a lot of money. And everyone says, well, they're fighting, like Mattis, who says, sir, they are fighting for their liberty. I said, no, they're not fighting for their liberty. They're among the most highly paid soldiers in the world. We pay $6 billion to their military. They weren't fighting for their liberty. They were fighting because they got paid a lot of money. They were when you fight for your liberty, you don't get paid.
Right.
And as soon as we started doing certain things, I knew the government was going to fall. And look how badly it was run. And by the time I got there, most of the country, large sections of the country.
You had an understanding with the Taliban guy, Abdullah, that he wouldn't do certain things.
He didn't. I told you, he didn't kill one soldier in 18 months. And the fake news can check that. And even Biden said it. Biden said, well, I will say they didn't shoot one soldier in 18 months. And his people are screaming at him, but, say a but Trump did a terrible job. Say something. But he said that. 18 months we went without a soldier even being shot at. Because I said, as I said, Abdul, we're going to get along. But Abdul, please remember this. If you kill one soldier, one American, we're going to hit you harder than any country has ever been hit. And you think you could have kept on? So our plan was to get out, but the soldiers leave last.
Right.
The soldiers left first. And we left thousands of Americans behind. You probably have thousands there now, nobody knows. But we have Americans living there that want to get out and they can't. All the people would come out first. All of the equipment was going to come out. Some Afghans are going to come out, limited, because, who ever heard of you're fighting a war and then you end the war and you take everybody with you? But there was some that deserve. It's like, listen, we're ending the war. Anybody wants to move to America, come on with us. Who ever heard of this? It's never. But some are deserving, some of the interpreters and some of the people are deserving. We had an airlift where 3% of the people, hundreds of thousands of people came out. And 3% of those people deserve to come out. We have no idea who the 97% are. I guarantee you in there you have terrorists. We'll be paying a price in the future for the people that came out of that airline. But I think very importantly, think of it, 95% of the public thought it was a disgrace what happened. A disgrace. The fake news doesn't talk about it. When was the last time you saw Afghanistan? Even a mention of Afghanistan, they don't talk about it. Because just like they didn't want to talk about Hunter Biden, except for the New York Post, the good old New York Post are great. But they didn't want to talk about it, and they shut down the New York Post.
I'm glad you brought Hunter Biden up, because when we were in Orlando, and I did tell the audience this before you arrived, when I asked you last Sunday if you were elected, would you ask the Justice Department to look into Hunter and Joe Biden, and you said probably not.
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
What did you say?
I said I'm not looking to hurt people, but what's going on here is terrible. $500,000 a painting. It's very interesting. I'm doing a painting of me now in the White House, and the White House pays. And I met 4 or 5 artists, tremendously talented people. How much? Because I like to ask how much. I can buy a painting for $10,000, $20,000, $25,000. Best painters, all highly recommended. Great painters. They paint me. They make me look so beautiful. They make my hair look better than it's ever looked. They make me look so thin and magnificent. I fell in love with myself looking at the painting. I like it much better than I like a picture, okay? But these are really talented people. I said to myself, you know, you can buy a magnificent from a top artist for $25,000, and this guy's getting $500,000 per painting, and he's not even painting them himself.
He's a crook.
Look, what went on with Russia giving $3.5 billion, the mayor of Moscow's wife, and I said to Chris Wallace, may he rest in peace. He's gone. He's now going to be screaming. He was so bad as a host. When I brought that up to Biden about the $3.5 billion that came from the mayor of Moscow's wife, Chris Wallace wouldn't let him answer the question. I said, why not? It's not appropriate. I said, why isn't it appropriate? If somebody's dishonest or somebody's a crook. But then you look at the money that came out of China. Look what he's doing for Russia, as an example.
Shouldn't there be a federal investigation?
Well, there already is. And if somebody's guilty of it. But you don't do it like they do with us, where you try and you search for a crime. We have so many different things. What about Biden? Where Biden said, $2 billion, but you got to get rid of the prosecutor. Can you imagine if I said that? $2 billion, but you have to get rid of the prosecutor. And you know what happened? They got rid of the prosecutor. Big strong guy. Somebody said he wants to take me to the back of the bar. One shot, he's got it. Look, let me just tell you. Those are all criminal acts. And what I say is that I don't want people hurt. I don't want families hurt. But there's never been corruption on a scale. When you see the kind of money that Russia gave to Hunter, which is to give to the father, right? You know, the big guy they call him, I guess, right in the books. When you get millions of dollars and then you see somebody approve a pipeline that I had stopped, when you see China give $1.5 billion to him, and you go to the biggest guys on Wall Street, a lot of them are friends of mine, I say, could you do that? They say, we can't do that. These are the most respected financial geniuses of our time, and they can't do it. And he walks away with $1.5 billion. It's a disgrace what's going on. It's a disgrace.
Okay, now I want to end this portion. I want to have 2 questions.
We're not going to do it. Wouldn't you rather keep going instead of an intermission? Does anybody want an intermission? Right? Let's keep going.
I want you to assess the following people. Now, I'm not looking for you to hammer them. Just give the folks some...
Yes, he is.
Give them some insight, all right?
And by the way, did you mention these names to me at any time?
No.
In other words, did I know you'd be...
This is like to tell the truth. He doesn't know. All right, the first one is Mitch McConnell.
So Mitch McConnell, they like me in Kentucky, and I love the people in Kentucky, but they don't like him. And he was running against a woman named Amy McGrath, and she had $93 million. These Democrats can raise money like nobody. She had $93 million ready to kill him. They were going to go in, she was going to beat him so badly. And he came to see me in the White House. He wanted my support. I've never been a huge fan, but we did do a good job on judges. But who did a good job? I won the presidency, so therefore I got to choose judges. I mean, you tell me who did a good job. Okay, he gets credit for it. If I didn't win the presidency, there wouldn't have been judges. It would have been like it is right now. Not good. Mitch McConnell lost 2 senators in Georgia. That's what caused this whole thing. What he did was made it impossible for them to win. He should have fought for the presidency. Schumer would have never accepted the results of more votes. Think of it. You have more votes and yet people voting in states. You had more votes, just that alone. Insignificant numbers. Take a look. You had more votes than you have voters. And then they say, oh, the election was wonderful. How do you have more votes than you have voters? So many other things. And I'm so disappointed, just to interject, that Mike Pence, instead of sending it back to those legislatures and saying, excuse me, there are some really big problems. Could you please check this out and then send it back to us? Give them 10 days or 7 days or 2 weeks. But could you do? So I was very disappointed in that, and so were a lot of people. A lot of people are very upset about it because I think you would have had a very different outcome to the election. But Chuck Schumer never in a million years would have accepted those election results. And just as a final, we had a very strong card. It's called the debt ceiling. It's a psychological card, but you don't want to play it. But they're putting things through right now that are so horrible. And the worst will be the voting rights bill, because if they pass that, that means a Republican can never win an election again, essentially.
All right, let's get to...
Wait a minute. Mitch McConnell, if he played the debt ceiling card, that we're not going to give you an extension. He gave a 2-month extension, just time enough for them to get their act together. If he would have played the debt ceiling card, you wouldn't have had the infrastructure bill passed. You know what the infrastructure is? Because there was so little infrastructure. You wouldn't have had the infrastructure bill. 9% to 11% infrastructure. 90% is throwing money out the window. You wouldn't have had that passed. And now they're going for the big one because it's probably the Wharton School of Finance, which I went to, a very good place. The smartest people, thank you. They said $5 trillion. Can't do it. And you want to see inflation? Past that. But the other thing is they're looking at expanding the court now, the Supreme Court, because they want to load it up with their radical left judges. And they'll get it done if we have Mitch McConnell. You were willing to play the debt ceiling card. We could have played the debt ceiling card and we would have won everything. But he didn't have the guts to play it. And frankly, he should not be the leader. Right. And just to finish, so he came to me and he wanted help and I gave him help. And he shot up 21 points and he won. And the next thing I know is he's saying, like, let's try and impeach that son of a bitch. No, I don't like him. We're never going to like him. He's a lousy leader. And the reason he leads, he raises money and he doles it out to the senators. Go ahead. Next question.
Mark Zuckerberg.
So I know him well. I was surprised because when he was in the White House, he was very solicitous. He was with his wife. He walked into a dining room. I was having dinner with our First Lady, who people love a lot. Great style, great heart. And we're having dinner, and he walked in, he said, congratulations, you're number one. On what? He said, Facebook. I said, very good, that's what he said. I don't even know if it's true, but he said, congratulations, you're number one. One thing I can tell you, I had a lot. Then I had a lot on Twitter. All of a sudden, we didn't have. He's got to be stopped because they're dishonest. So they're going after Republican, like in Nebraska, they're going after Republican congressmen who probably didn't know that a foreign source gave some money to his campaign. You're talking about peanuts. And yet this guy gave $417 million and they spread it all out into I call them the unlock boxes. You know, I had a couple of boxes where 100% of the vote was for Biden and nothing was for Trump. We had some 97% of the vote was for Biden and 3% was for Trump. And they had long delays. They took it from this location. They had long delays in getting the box, days, getting the box from here to there.